So that's the best way we describe to everybody that asks us what we do and what makes us different. So instead of your roasted red pepper, you're probably not like every other company that makes hummus does. We refuse to do those flavors. We actually refuse to do an original. That's how authentic we are to being different, right? And we get a lot of flack sometimes for that, for some of the purists, about, well, you're a hummus company, you don't do an original. Well, we don't want to, right? I mean, so Ben & Jerry's doesn't do a chocolate. You know, they do Chubby Hubby and Funky Monkey and all that weird fun flavors, right? So, but that's what makes Ben & Jerry's fun and unique. So that's literally what we've designed our whole company's model, business model after, was kind of that Ben & Jerry's-esque of hummus. So we'll wait. I mean, I'll roll into my very first slide anyway. So what I really want to talk about today is a two-letter word that really shapes our lives through and through. And the word's no, right? Has anyone ever had the word no presented to them, right? Yeah, everybody, I mean, God forbid, you're all liars. You don't raise your hands. So, yeah, the word no. And, you know, no can be something as simple as, oh, you know, I hate to, you know, borrow something, no. To, hey, you know, I'm asking for $1 million, no. And there's different magnitudes of that no. You know, from not a big deal to I just had my heart ripped out of my chest and kicked like David Beckham, right? So, and over the course of my years, you know, growing up and stuff, I really learned to embrace the word no. And instead of letting it tear you apart and kind of kill those dreams, I learned to work with it and, as I always say, challenge accepted. So my no's always try to turn into yeses. And if not, then they turn into learning lessons, which, you know, I kind of want to share with you guys some of my experiences with some failures, you know, and my pivot points and how I turned those no's into yeses and how I dealt with those no's. So let's start with that. Give me some, this is going to be pretty interactive, you know, so it's not going to be me just up here doing this for an hour. Give me some fears you guys have. Any fears?
Rejection.
Okay, rejection, perfect. Good. Perfect.
Being a martyr.
Perfect. Okay, how about you? Give me one. Fear. Business related, life related.
Financial fear.
Okay, perfect.
Being too successful.
Oh, that's, you know what? That's funny. That's actually that's a real fear, right? How about you? Perfect. Okay, that's a really good fear, actually, right?
Being normal, ordinary.
Excellent. You know, those are good fears, right? So we live with these fears every day in our life, right? But you have to stop and think, what am I going to do to change those fears, right? What am I going to do to stop from being mediocre? You know, stop from, you know, what am I going to do to take away that fear from being too successful? And it comes down to taking the risks, right? And eliminating that fear with what I call two options, right? So, what are we looking at?
Power of my computer decided that.
Okay, we're just going to wing this thing, so here we go. So, there's some cool pictures and stuff on there, but my PowerPoints weren't that in detail anyways. So I'm going to go from memory now. So here we go. Yeah, I'm better than the PowerPoint, rise above. Here, fear, public speaking when your stuff doesn't work, right? So, I was going to hit on some, you know, the fears we also face in everyday life. Dating, right? How scary is dating? Right? Guys and girls, when you get approached or you approach someone to ask for that number, what's your biggest fear when you say, hey, can I have your number? Rejection, right? And when it sucks when they go, no, thank you, or I have a boyfriend, right? And there's two ways to handle it. You can walk away with your head down, or you can turn it in, well, hey, you know what, I had to ask, right? There's also the fear of public speaking, right? Who enjoys public speaking? Awesome, and I love it too, right? I didn't always love it, but I learned to embrace public speaking. I'm sure you guys can wake up going, yes, public speaking. That's my jive right there. How about talking to strangers? And I'm not talking the free candy vans, not those strangers. But talking to strangers in general. Does anyone here just ever go up and talk to someone waiting in public lines? You like it?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. That's a great thing. How about you? Good?
Yeah, I've done it a few times.
Okay. That's really the starting point of what we call networking, right? So networking, to me, is the professional way of talking to strangers. Really, you know, instead of, you know, being in public waiting for a sub, you're simply all dressed up, looking fly, and handing out business cards to each other. So you're all there to do the same thing. So, but I do that a lot. You know, as I've gotten older, I've embraced the talking to strangers. And to some people that sounds weird, but I've met some very important people in my life just by simply talking to them, asking how the day was, making small talk, and you never know. I actually met a connection to Disney World's golf courses the other day talking to some random lady at Hullett's, and she happens to be the head pro golfer of Disney. So yeah, right? It's amazing who you run into, and you never know who's standing beside you in public, right? So that's where, you know, my whole life, I kind of look back now and I go, okay, there's this important aspect of rejection, right, versus regret. And think about that for a second, right? Rejection versus regret. So you have two avenues to go down. You can approach a situation in either way. You can walk up to somebody and go, okay, I'm either going to talk to them and introduce myself, and I can fear that rejection of getting shot down, and I don't want anything to do with you, right? But what if I don't, right? Maybe it's a girl or a guy you want to get their phone number. Maybe it's the business partner you want to approach, or maybe it's that important person at a networking event that you're dying to meet, but you're kind of intimidated, right? If you don't approach that important person, what might you have lost, right? So I see the regret portion now as already a no. If you don't go up and talk to that person immediately, or you don't go up and talk to them at all, you're already no. So if you approach them for that fear of rejection, you have a 50-50 chance, right? You have a chance of no or a chance of yes, right? So I look at my whole life like that now, and it's made me very, very outgoing, almost too outgoing at some point in times, to the point where I'll go into Starbucks now, and they'll be like, what's your name? I'm like, Batman. Then they'll go, I'm like, no, right, Batman. So, you know, and I make fun of it, right? So when they call out the name of the coffee, they go, Mojo for Batman? They go, oh, they're on to me. I grab my coffee cup and I walk out. And people laugh, you know? So I think it's fun because you're the square peg in the round hole, right? I mean, you're being different, but it's amazing when people come up to me and they go, that kind of just made my morning. You know what I mean? Because it's stupid, but it's small, and you're taking those little risks that, you know, get you out of your comfort zone, right? Who feels like they're complacent and stuck in a comfort zone? Okay, a few people. Yeah, I think we all can say at some point in time we're stuck in a comfort zone, you know, kind of a fear to step out. I like to think I'm pretty outgoing, but I really pushed. Oh, okay, here we go. You're the man, by the way.
You're the man.
How do I work this? Which was which?
Right is right, left is left. Right is left.
Right is right. Thanks, validate. No, okay. So let me catch up myself. Okay, so this is probably one of my favorite quotes of all times, right? Failure is the opportunity to begin again more intelligent, right? Henry Ford, very, very smart man, someone I personally adore. He's done wonderful things for the way we live today, right? He also has another quote that I live by. Fear are the obstacles you see when you take your eye off your goal, right? And that's true. And that, again, goes back to that fear of rejection, right? So if you're afraid to take that risk and quit your job to start a startup, right? If you're afraid to invest the $1,500 you've been saving, fear is what's holding you back from going forward and pursuing your dreams. So that fear of rejection, that fear of no, that fear of losing whatever you work so hard to, you know, get with. So I want to explain the very beginning on how I kind of learned to deal with no. It was at a playground at age 7. And I remember this day very, very specifically. I was with my grandma, and I had a doctor's appointment or something like that, so it was just me and like one other kid on the playground. And I was a super shy kid when I was little, like really shy. I would only talk to like my family members and stuff. And my grandma said something to me important that day, and she's like, why don't you go play with that kid? And I was like, I don't know him. She's like, well, he doesn't know you. And I was like, well played, Grandma. Well played. I said, well, what do I say to him? She's like, go tell him your name. And I was like, that is a good starter, I guess, right? So I'm like 7. I remember this clear as day. I mean, it was the sweetest playground. It was like, you know, castles everywhere. I mean, just life was good. So I went up, I talked to the kid, and we became best friends, actually. So that really kind of stuck with me through life because I'm like, man, I literally just talked to this guy in the middle of nowhere. Think of your friendships, right? We weren't born with our friends. How did you meet your friends? Talking to them through other friends, out, you bump into them. I met one of my best friends on a bus, right? And we just happened to go to the same class together, and we're best friends to this day. So getting out, opening yourself up to new opportunities and that fear of no, taking that away from your personal life, everyday life. We already talked about the rejection versus regret. So this is where my kind of background goes. So I got a lot of no's in my life, a ton of no's. I am literally a guy that, as I grew up, I really learned to kind of venture out more, and I've done some pretty crazy things to get, I guess, that entrepreneurial background. That's where I really fell in love at a young age. when I was a kid, my dad ran a candy company, not like Willy Wonka per se, but it was a vending company. So his warehouse stored all the food for all the vending companies to come and stock all your vending machines, right? So at any given time, I mean, our house looked like Willy Wonka. It was pretty terrible, but awesome at like age 12. So I'll never forget this. He brought home these, you guys know those fundraiser packs of candy bars people sell? We're supposed to sell them for like a reason, right? So my dad brought them home for us to eat because there was just a bunch of them, that were about to expire. Well, me being a little entrepreneur, I was like, you're not eating these. Like, we have all this other candy. So I took them and I hid them in my room. And I brought my brother and I said, listen, we're going to go sell these candy bars because I need BMX bike parts. So we went around selling these, and at a very young age, I learned that whole cold call, right? We literally just went door to door in all these neighborhoods around our house selling candy bars, telling people we were building BMX bikes. So we weren't lying to them, they were just, kind of didn't know what was going on. They're just cute kids selling candy bars. So we raised like $250, and I bought a new bike. And my parents were like, where did you get that money from? And I was like, well, I sold the candy bars right home. And they were like, to who? I was like, everybody. So they were so distraught that we raised like all this money off these candy bars. My dad's like, I think that's illegal because they're like for charity work, and we didn't know. We just did it. So that's when I kind of knew. I was like, well, why work for other people when I can work for myself? Like I can make money. You just think of something and sell it. So I had some other little ventures, but we did have, I'll never forget. We walked through a couple doors, and people are like, no, and they shut you down. And that's the worst thing is when you're trying to sell something, people don't even get the time of day. But this was, back when people still knocked on doors. People don't even knock on doors anymore. So I would, cold call, sales call, that'd be weird today like that. But the very first business I launched that really had an impact, I was 20, and I was living in Ohio at Kent State University. It was a boat detailing company. It started out as a boat detailing company, right? So I wanted to make some extra cash as a broke college kid starting out college. So I was like, I'm going to clean cars on the weekends. I went to Kinko's and made a bunch of flyers or whatever. And initially, my first thought was, well, I'm just going to put them on all these windshields, all these college kids. Well, me being over ambitious, I was like, screw that. Car dealerships have 150 cars at any time. I was like, there's a ton of money right there. We'll just go straight to the car dealerships. So without doing much research on that, I just walked into a car dealership and I said, hey, my name's Jesse. I own this little detailing company. I was like, I want to clean your cars. And he actually at first was like, cool. And I was kind of caught off guard by it. I was like, oh, okay, this is going to work. So he said, well, how much you charge per car? And I said, $15 a car. Doesn't sound bad, right? That dude laughed in my face, and the three guys he was with, they busted out. They were like, you're high as a kite. And I was like, $15 a car, that's not bad. He's like, we pay $3 a car. I was like, $3 a car? I'm sitting there, I was like so distraught, because like, first this guy's laughing in my face. He just shut me down, right? Secondly, I'm trying to like fathom how you make money on $3 a car, right? So I learned a hard lesson that day. Do your research before going out and launching a business, because you get laughed at. So we got shut down. So as I'm sitting there, and I'm in my truck in that same car dealership, and I'm trying to fathom, figure out what just happened, right? I'm looking across the street, there's a boat dealership, and I'm like, well, if boats are $2-3 a car, or cars are $2-3, maybe boats are $15. We'll try that, So I went across to the boat dealership, and I walked in, and I said, can I speak to the owner, please? I kind of said it like there was an issue, and I didn't realize it. So they said, oh, yes, sir, and I was like, wow, pretty important here. So the guy came out, he's like, hey, is everything okay, sir? Everything all right? And I'm like, yeah, everything's good. And he's looking at me like, you're like a 20-year-old kid, like you didn't buy a boat, So I kind of caught him off guard, and I said, hey, I was like, we're a detailing business. He's like, oh. You can tell he was relieved. So I don't know if he was like super stressed out that day, but I realized at that point in time I stressed the guy out of an accident, right? Also, lesson learned there. So approach people when you're doing cold calls with a friendly attitude and more of a, not a, hey, I'm here to mess stuff up type of attitude. So he gave us an opportunity to come in on Saturday and detail a boat and show them what we could do. So we did have to clean a boat for free. We didn't get paid for it, just to prove that we could do it and do the job well. Fast track 6 months later, and I had a contract at 20 years old with this boat dealership, right? And it was absolutely incredible because that first year we grossed $90,000 in sales at 20 years old, right? I had more money than I knew what to do with. I mean, you want to talk about being young, the Blackstone Launchpad and stuff really didn't exist then, so it was hard to find kind of entrepreneurial help at that point in time. So we actually ended up going to a couple of different boat dealerships at that point in time. I'm like, well, if I can do one, we can do a couple. So we landed another boat dealership, but he didn't let us do his boats. He contracted us for a big event, right? And he's like, I want you to go up and do the Cleveland Boat Show, which if anyone's ever been in a boat show, all the dealerships bring all their models up, and you got to clean them, keep up with them for the week for the customers. So I said, okay. I was like, what do you think of budget-wise? He's like, that's $9,000. I was like, all right, yeah, we can for sure do that, right? So I a little bit overcommitted because it was 45 boats we had to clean in one day. So didn't quite, that goes back to knowing what you're getting into, and this is what I'm trying to helm for you guys. So I've enlisted a crew of Applebee's servers. That's who I had access to at the time, and I bribed them with money and free food, which I'm good at today, still bribing people with free food. So anyhow, we knocked out that boat show. We were definitely the rookies of that boat show. We were matching T-shirts, and that's about all we had together. But other than that, we got the job done, and 2008 hit. Obviously, what happened in 2008? Housing market crashed. Boats are a luxury item, so we went from detailing people's boats that were sold in their prized possessions, which were the happiest days of our lives, to detailing repoed boats, which were, I mean, we had some interesting stuff. Dead animals, raccoons and stuff. So people just, banks taking and screw off. Here, take your boat back. So the lesson I took from that was, if I would have let that car dealership scare me off, right? Because initially we were just going to go do people's cars. We might have seriously came out a couple $1,000s maybe in a few months, right? But I stayed. I didn't really let that guy break me down like it should have. I stayed above it. I didn't take that no for an answer, and I went and tried a different avenue. I made a pivot point, right? Walked across the street. We landed a $100,000 a year company, in a heartbeat. So, really hitting home that fact that no always means yes. It might not work for that guy, but try the next guy, and try the next guy until you get that yes. Or sit back and reevaluate your situation. Why did I get that no? It's because I didn't come prepared, right? I didn't really look into the market. So go back and see it again. It's not so much I had a bad product. Now, I had bad products. That leads me into my next one, puppy love. We shut down shop on the detailing company because things got pretty tough, during the economic crunch or whatever. I started another company that was more feasible that people were using in Ohio called Turd Terminator. So it was a pet business where we went and cleaned people's yards. And in Ohio, you only have like 3 months of summer, so people cherish their backyards on barbecues. So we had a pretty cool window there to go and contract. People would contract us to go make sure their yards were landmine free. Okay. And as dumb as it sounds, we got laughed at. Oh my God, my parents thought I was dumber than a box of rocks. You're gonna go pick up dog food, really? And I was like, yeah, and people are paying me for it. So we were making like $50 a yard. So $50 a yard times 40 yards. Do the math. That's pretty sweet cash, especially when we started multiplying. So one summer we made almost $18,000 in a 3-month span cleaning dog poop. Okay. So very seasonal. Obviously, Ohio's got winter, but same story. You know how many people laughed at us when I handed out business cards and it said Turd Terminator? We're number one in the number 2 business. That was our business card, right? So, but I didn't let that, that thinking and the people laughing at us and go, this will never work, stop us, Because at the end of the day, we had $18,000 in sales off that, right?
Forget either.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we always try to do with our businesses. And every business that I've started and moved on from or whatever, I've taken lessons from. Another one, which definitely turned out to be not legal, not in like a drug dealing way, but permitting. So when I first moved down to Florida in 2010, we moved down in August, so Christmas and stuff was right around the corner. Well, I came from a smaller farm town in Ohio. Orlando to me was like big city, right? And it still is. I see downtown, I'm like, we have a downtown area. When really, it's like you blink your eyes and you're through. Black Friday, I had this brilliant idea as I'm sitting in Toys R Us Black Friday line. I told my mom, like, yo, next year, I'm going to come sell food and coffee in these things. It's genius because I'm thirsty and I can't leave this damn line because you're waiting for toys for my brothers and sisters. I'm like, it sucks. So fast track the next Christmas, Black Friday, me and at that time I was working at AutoZone, my band of AutoZone people that I recruited. I always recruited my coworkers, by the way. There was 4 of us. We had 2 trucks, and we rented those big coffee percolators you get from like church, right? By the way, lesson learned there, learn how to use your equipment before you go out on your job site. Okay. So we're out on this job site. We're in the Florida Mall parking lot. Okay. At 6:30 on Thanksgiving Day. And we're sitting next to that Toys R Us because I'm like, that's our store. I saw it last year. It's happening again. I checked all the sales. Sure enough, there was a line building up like crazy. So we have a generator. I mean, we look like Clampets R Us out there. We had a generator going. We had these coffee pots in the back of this truck. And coffee pots weren't running, right? So I'm like, well, I'm paying you guys. I mean, it sucks. Like, we have to, like, I started panicking. I'm like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? So there's a Walmart down the road. Now, remember, Black Friday. Keep that in mind, okay? So I'm like, all right, screw it. We're going to go to Walmart. We're going to get sodas, waters, and chips or something. So everyone's waiting inside Walmart for electronics, toys, bikes, everything that's on sale. Us three minions are running through Walmart with shopping carts full of soda, water, and chips. And they're like, I had to like, what the heck? Is there a Black Friday special on food bag? It was the funniest thing. People are like, what is, and then people are starting to look at the prices on the shelves, like Googling it on their phones, trying to figure out what's going on. So Black Friday, we're shopping for groceries. We go back. We then use the dolly we had for the cooler, and we shuffle around all this food. That line alone we made $300. Not bad for like 25 minutes worth of work, right? So it caught on like that. I was like, this is a damn good idea, right? So we hit that line, we tapped it out, Toys R Us open. Well, then I looked before and I realized what time other stores were opening. So I said, well, cool, well, let's go to Target because Target doesn't open until 1 a.m. So we went to the Target over by Florida Mall, and the police showed up. So that went south quickly. And they're like, you have license and permits. And I was like, for what? Like, we're selling soda, man. Like, I don't understand. Well, you have to have, and he was basically, now that I'm in the food industry, he was really just hassling us, because we don't really have to have permits. So, anyhow, we didn't let that no stop us. I was like, we'll just play dumb. We'll go to the next store and say, oh, we didn't know. We did that 7 times that night. And the cops were there 3 of those 7 stores. So, but we just kept trying, and I was like, until they say, oh, you were the guys that just got kicked out, I was like, we'll just keep going. Because they're not going to arrest us for, at least that's what I thought. They probably could have. So, we ended up, 3 of us, grossing $2,700 that night. We went to Walmart like 7 times on Black Friday and cleared out like 3 Walmart shelves worth of cola and stuff. So, it kind of blew our minds, and by the way, we never sold a cup of coffee. So we never did get those things working. To this day, I still hate those coffee makers. So I haven't done that since that Black Friday because it was a lot of work. But if anybody wants a good way to make quick cash, you're welcome. And then probably my biggest attempt since the book detailing business that I got shot down with a big no was bumper love. So who's familiar with love bugs? Right? Okay. What do love bugs do to the front bumpers of cars? They destroy them, right? So unfortunately, I learned that lesson the hard way when I first moved down here. I didn't know what a love bug was. Well, my car told me very quickly when all the paint was missing on the front of it. So I was coming up at UCF and I saw these guys with blue masking tape all over the front of their car protecting their front bumpers and their paint. And I was like, yeah, this is dumb. Like, I get what they're trying to do, but A, that's expensive. I was like, I'm sure, I found a problem. Let's find a solution, right? That's simple entrepreneurship. So that's when actually I met, I don't know if anyone here is familiar with Mike O'Donnell. Mike O'Donnell was the first person I ever talked to in the entrepreneurship community here. And I brought Bumper Love up to him and I said, here's my concept. I found this company that was making this plastic wrap for new cars, right? So if anyone's ever bought a new car, you'll see a lot of them with like white film on the hoods and stuff. And that protects them for transport so rocks and stuff don't scratch them. So I said, well, if I could buy that, we can wrap the front of cars. Well, again, at first I was like, well, I'll do student cars. Then I was like, what can I do on a bigger scale? Well, who moves 4,500 cars a day? Rental car companies, right? Orlando Airport has a few of those. So I got in touch with Hertz, which rents almost 4,000 cars a day, right? And they said their biggest problem are love bugs. They're spending X amount of dollars on solution to wash these cars, and they're paying extra people, keep the bugs off the paint. So I said, well, hey, here's my idea. Here's my solution. They said, we're really interested. We are. You need to get to about a $12 price point per car. So do that math, right? 4,500 cars, right, at $12 a piece, 3 times a week for 4 weeks. That's pretty sweet business, right? And you do that twice a year. So I was like, man, I'm sitting on a cash cow. The problem was, if you notice the front bumper off my own car, it's not that easy to put on, right? And now, they've definitely come out with some newer technology and stuff. This was probably like 2011. But the film we ended up going with was called Road Armor, and it looked like saran wrap. That was paint and clear coat safe. But you had to put it on, and it did towards the sides. You can go through car wash and stuff, but the sides taper, and kick off, then it would start unpeeling. So we're trying to find a good solution, The cheapest we can get it down to with labor and stuff, because we had to hand wrap 4,500 cars. Yeah, that's that's pretty intense, right? Was about $30 a car. And that was us just barely making a profit based off that. We're more so after the volume. So to this day, I'm still kind of bitter walking away from that, right? And even currently, I'm still in kind of contacts with the Hertz people. Every once in a while, they're like, "Hey, someone tried your idea again," but no one can get it to the price point they need to spend on it. So just actually last love bug season, someone else tried it with a spray-on film, but it doesn't stay on long enough, and the dilemma. So they actually gave me a yes, but that was one of the first times when I told myself no, and that was pretty big, because you have to learn when to cut your ties, right? You have to learn when something's not going to work before dumping your blood, sweat, and tears, money, right, into something that's a dead end. And you see that. You guys ever watch Shark Tank? Okay. How many times have you seen on Shark Tank when you're like, "That's a terrible idea," right? I mean, we've all, yeah, right. And you're like, "Why?" And you hear them. I refinanced my house. I refinanced my neighbor's house. My grandma, her funeral's been refinanced. You're like, "Stop it right now." Like, if it sucks, it sucks. Okay. So, as cool of an idea that was, think about the market on love bugs. It's 2 weeks out of the year, or we'll call it maybe 2 months out of the year, right? That's a pretty niche spot, right? So I was like, I'm gonna let someone else struggle with this, and I moved on to my next venture. So learn to definitely cut ties when you think it's not feasible, but make sure you know it's not feasible. You got to be smart, and you got to know when to walk away. So this brings me to my next brilliant idea, and I'm so proud of this picture because I look like Alvin and the Chipmunks shaved. This is what I came up with the current company, O'Dang Hummus. So I had my wisdom teeth out, and did everyone here have the wisdom teeth out? It's parties, right? Face swells up. So the teeth came out good, that was awesome. But then they became the 4 holes from hell in the Thunderdome in my mouth. My face just blew up, right? So I'm sitting at home, and I was like, man, I took the whole week off of work. I was like, screw this, I'm not going in. And I was sitting there, and the first couple of days were awesome. I mean, what person doesn't want an excuse to have milkshakes 3 times a day, right? So, wisdom teeth are sweet, right? So then I went to soup, and I got tired of soup, and I got tired of milkshakes, and I'm like, man, I just want something with a little more substance in it, right? So the girl I was seeing at the time went down and to Publix and bought me every flavor of Sabra had, which was about 6 different containers. And some of them I did like, some of them I was like, man, this is funky. And then I was like, that's all they had, huh? She was like, yeah, because I was eating hummus a little bit, but only when she would buy it. But that week I fell in love with hummus because I realized how good it was, for health reasons and stuff. And then I started, when I was bored at home, researching and seeing who else made hummus. And it hit me, I was like, man, there's not a lot of companies that make this stuff. So I also discovered that there weren't a lot of companies making new flavors. They all make roasted pine nut and garlic and tapas, and kind of the basic classic flavors. So my mouth was killing me, and if anybody knows me, I'm not a big drug person at all. I've never done them. I'm terrified I'll be downtown in an apron and like oven mitts or something. I'll whack that out of my mind. So they had me on Vicodin.
Do you ever need a second gig?
Yes,
yeah,
that's gonna wait. Just pay me gold first. How cool would that be? So like one of those New York sidewalk shows. So hopped up on Vicodin because that was a party. I walked like 1.5 miles down to Walmart by my house, which don't recommend that. So I think I looked like a homeless dude, I'm pretty sure, because I was like in just a mess. But I was determined to get a little food processor. I was bored out of my mind and some chickpeas, and I did it. I'll never forget that day. That was the worst day of my life at Walmart. Like the place was spinning, and I was like this. And I walked, so how the hell was I getting home? I had to walk home. So anyhow, lesson learned there. Go home and I turned my whole little apartment kitchen into Top Chef. Okay, I gutted everything we had, and I was like, watch this and watch this and watch that. And somehow, surprisingly, I actually turned out one good flavor out of like 75 attempts. And that was the buffalo wing. That was the basis of the buffalo wing flavor. And she was taking it to work, and she worked at Michael Kors Mall Millennium. So very high fashion. Well, all those girls are very health conscious and oriented about what they're eating and stuff. Well, they loved it. And I realized looking back, I was like, wow, this stuff is pretty healthy. So I went back and I tried it again with a couple different new flavors and catered to the actual health side of it, right? So the idea was born. And shortly after that, I met this lady for the first time. I think it was her first semester on campus. She covered for a business plan class I had just started that Michael O'Donnell was teaching. She covered for Mike, who had to go on a business trip. And actually, let me step back one. So the big failure of this, I actually had a couple failures with O'Dang Hummus. I put this in the time they were. I don't know if are we still doing the elevator pitches? So I don't know if Cameron's still doing it or not. So they used to have this elevator pitch competition, which was really cool. You literally had 2 minutes to get up there. I think 90 seconds to get up there, pitch your competition, and you could win. I think it was like $2 or $3 grand. So pretty fast money for easy, 90-second speech. So I entered this thinking, man, this is a good idea. And at the time, it was a big competition on campus, and I missed it. I missed it by one spot, it turns out. So I was like, well, that sucks. So I was, again, disheartened. I was like, well, maybe the idea is not good. It's just dip, right? So I went and I watched some of the pitches, and some of them were really good. There was one, I'll never forget it. He was asking for like $65 million. And I was like, how the hell did I get passed up for this guy? So, but you know what? I didn't take it personal, right? I went and I listened to what everyone else had, and I watched their pitches and stuff. So, fast track to the spring semester. 2 or 3 weeks in the class, Pam covers, and that's when the first joust. That's when I first learned about the joust. She said, "Hey, try this business plan competition." And she's up there, and she's being Pam, and she's loud, and she's fun, and she's in everyone's face, and we all love her for that. My favorite thing about her. She's outgoing. And she's telling everybody about this business plan competition, and she's like, "You still have 24 hours to enter." Well, what a lot of people don't know is Bumper Love, I entered the year before into the business plan competition. Never got picked, right? So now I failed at 3 UCF events, right? I put Bumper Love in the elevator pitch, never got picked. I put Bumper Love into the joust, never got picked. I put O'Dang Hummus in the elevator pitch, never got picked. So I said, you know what, screw it. I was like, it's 24 hours for the deadline. I entered, right? And by the grace of God, I got a top 16. So that no, right? How many no's did I get there in a year? Quite a few, right? Big no's. Like, hey, here's my idea. Here's everything I worked on. You suck. That's basically, the way I took it. So, but it isn't that at all. It's timing and how far are you along and what's your idea. Do you really know your idea? And is it clear to you? Is it clear to your audience, right? So this is cool. We have taken 3rd place at the joust, right? Super excited, and I really want to hammer home the idea of the joust. When you do the joust, you're put in a room against 4 other teams, right? So you have to win your room to advance to the finals, right? Which you pitch against 5 other teams at that point in time. So when I went in, another setback that I experienced, my room were 2 tech companies, a medical company, and I forget what the 4th company was. 5th company. But I was sitting there and I'm like, I am screwed, right? Tech companies, medical company. I forgot what the other one was. It was a legal company, and I'm like, and I make dip. I was like, how is this gonna get me anywhere, right? So and I sat there and I started doubting myself for a second. I was like, this is basically like laying down, because I had been shot down 3 times before, and right then I said, you know what, screw it. I'm like, I'm gonna give it my all, and I'm gonna get this. This is mine, right? So I went in and I probably one of the best, to this day, best pitches I've ever had. And I crushed it, and when they announced my name, I was still pretty much kind of shocked that I beat. There were some really good tech companies. The healthcare company was really killer. And I was like, how the hell did this dip company just come in and win this? And to advance to the finals. So one of the judges came up to me afterwards and introduced himself personally. He said, you're unbelievable. He's like, the way you carry yourself, your persona, your confidence, he's like, you just are resilient to failure. And I really thought about that. I was like, yeah, you're kind of right, because I guess, I failed 3 times, and here I am again. So fast forward to the finals, right? I pitched against a female health product. I pitched against a really cool tech company for elderly homes that was already in elderly homes. The female cup product is already being sold in Walgreens and stuff like that. There was another tech company. I, to this day, don't even know what he does. I just know it's important. And then there was another guy, too. So I, again, went in and I said, you know what, if we came out of that one room alive, like, we have a viable chance to win this thing. So I pitched like no other, right? And I actually had a lot of people come up to me afterwards saying, you won this. This is yours. You won it. So, I mean, I have like my little posse around me from UCF, and they're like, oh, like, what do you do, 12 grand, blah, blah, blah. So when they announced it, it went 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1, obviously, for the big finale. When I got third, my heart made it to China. I mean, it dropped that hard, right? And I was like, F. I was like, here we are again. Again, right? I got told again, no. And I started thinking about some of the criticism I got from some of the judges and some of the people I met at the joust. And I'll never forget, and this is something that always stays with me, because O'Dang, right? That's a fun name. That's the point of the company. The very first judge to speak at the semifinals of the joust told me my name sucked. And I was like, I'm screwed. Like, this, I might as well just walk out of this room now. And I explained to him, I was like, well, listen, he's like, you need to be more like sovereign. You need to be more guarded, more, valued like that. And I was like, well, that's, I was like, with all due respect, I was like, that's not who we are. And I explained myself, right? So when I got here and I got third place, I started thinking about all these, some of the bad feedback we got, the critiquing, and some of the good feedback. And I left that day with my head held high physically, but mentally, man, I was pretty bitter. And nothing towards UCF, it was more myself, right? I'm like, what could I have done better? What did I miss? Where did I go wrong? What did they do better? What was it? So I looked back on everything, and they had sales, right? I was literally a guy making hummus out of my apartment kitchen, right? So in retrospect, I kicked ass, right? Two of those places were already selling products. So that no is really the biggest compliment I've ever gotten, right? So let's fast track another year forward. That's where we are today, okay? So the biggest sets of no's we've gotten recently, our very first day. So when I wrote my business plan for this competition, or for the business in general, our game plan was, we're going to start farmers markets. And we're going to expand into grocery stores, and then we're going to expand into cruise ships and space shuttles and whatever else we can put on this. Goats, and if we put on goats, we're good, So what I underestimated was how easy it is to get farmers markets. It's not. Okay? It's probably one of the hardest things, and I still face that challenge. Even Roy Reed can attest, because I'm trying to leverage him right now to get me in one of them. It took me 7 months to get into one farmer's market. And Orlando has a ton of them. Okay, so do that. It's not expensive. I pay $25 for that booth right there. The cost is not the expensive part. It's getting in. The one farmer's market we're in right now has a 3-year waiting list. Right? Yeah. And I didn't know that writing a business plan, because I was like, they're farmer's market. You go and sign up and you sell your crap. Right? No, it's a very serious game. Some people pull 6 figures a year out of these farmer's markets. Exactly. When I found out a certain seasoning company makes 6 figures a year, that's a salary office, I was like, what? It's incredible. It really is. Because it's a year-round business they do every weekend, right? When you go to farmers markets, people aren't really as price conscious as people at Walmart, right? They're going there for a premium homemade product, handmade product. So the very first farmers market I got accepted into was in Dr. Phillips, right? Big break. This is about 3 months in. Big break to really our plan to launch. So I signed up. I did all the paperwork. I had all my forms, had all my permits, my licensing. I'm ready to freaking go, man. Let me sell some hummus, right? I filled it out on a Wednesday. I was supposed to start that Saturday. Friday, I get an email. Farm market closed. So I was like so frustrated, right? Because I just spent 3 months trying to find a market to sell this product at, and then they just said screw off, basically. So failure at its finest again, right? So I kept searching and kept searching. 2 months later, this market opened in Oviedo called Good Neighbors Farmers Market. And the lady was really jazzed up about it. She sent me an email. She's like, when can you meet? I was so excited to just get an email back from one that I said, what are you doing now? So, and I live by Universal. I drove all the way out to Oviedo, just slamming hummus in my car, getting out there. And I was so overzealous, I didn't realize, I brought probably 40 tubs of hummus for 2 people. I was like, samples for everybody! There was this big committee, and there was 2 people. She was like, we'll find something to do with it. I was like, yeah, it's all for you guys. Bribery. So, but we got in. It was awesome, right? So, middle of April, we started our very first farmers market. Again, so now we're 4 or 5 months into trying to get into farmers markets. We're a year pretty much into this business plan, business model, etc. And we're finally about to sell our first product. Okay, so we're going to do an exercise. I'm going to show you my biggest fear. Ready? Everybody just pull out your wallet and hold it in the air. Everybody, just pull out your wallet and hold it in the air. Okay. Okay. Perfect. Now, pass it to the right. So it's easy to give away hummus. You guys know what walls are. It's easy to give away hummus, but you know what's scary is when I ask you to pull out that wallet and give me money for my hummus, right? That is a big, scary step for this company. And I was like, free food, you can, it sucks, but I'm hungry. I'm gonna eat it. You know what I mean? So everyone always like, oh, your hummus is so good. Your hummus is so good. Well, yeah, it's free. Of course, so you're probably just telling me that. That was my thinking, Free 99? Free 99, the best discount that exists. So that morning of this market, I've never been so stress sick in my life. I had $3,000 invested in this thing. I bought a van the 2 nights before that cost me like $1,500. It's beautiful, by the way. It's the Thunder van. But we were making it happen, and we got to this market and we set up. So I have recruited another coworker from O'Reilly Auto Parts at this time to help me out. Use your resources, people. Use your resources. And the very first customer that comes up is a pair of elderly ladies, and she walks up to my tub of hummus, and it's sitting here, and she just stares at it. And I'm like, what the hell is the lady doing? So I'm like trying to figure out what she's doing, and she's like, what do I do? I was like, well, you try it, so here's a sample. I give her a sample, she eats it, and she goes, gross. I almost melted down, right there. I was like, my first customer of the day. So thank God my friend that I recruited has been a lifelong friend of mine, and I'm like, Tony, we're effed. I was like, just pull down the banners. I was like, I knew this was a dumb idea. I was like, I just wasted $4,000. I was like, it's terrible. I was like, I'm screwed. I'm an idiot. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, it's one customer. And even I knew that, but I lost my mind when I had someone, because that was my biggest fear. Asking for money, they go, I'm not paying for this. And it turned out she was just a crabby old lady, right? Because she came back and she always spoke her mind about everything. Our tent, my trash cans. It was just absolutely nuts. So there was success, though, right? We sold a hell of a lot of hummus that day. That was my very first sale that went down in our company books, and that was our first $5 bill, 5 spot. So we were super jazzed up. So that day, the very first note, what if I would have said screw it and packed up and walked away, right? I was that brokenhearted because we didn't have another customer come by for like 10 minutes. I was literally having a full-blown meltdown because I put everything I had, blood, sweat, tears, time, into this. I was working a job, 60 hours a week for O'Reilly Auto Parts. I was going to school full-time, and I launched this on the weekends. So Thursday, Friday night, I was up till 3 o'clock in the morning, both those nights, making hummus for my Saturday market. So it was tough, but we hunkered down and we stayed through it. This was one of the biggest breaks I've ever gotten in this company so far. So I told you guys how hard it is to get in farmers markets, right? This farmers market is the Lake Eola Farmers Market. Anybody ever been to it on Sundays? Okay, it's a pretty happening place. There's a 3-year waiting list to get in that market, all right? So I was like, I don't have 3 years. I don't have 3 years to get, for this company. So I Roman horsed my way into that thing, and I packed another cooler, a lunchbox actually, full of hummus, and I made it look like I was going on a picnic after I was going to the shopping, to the market, and I went up to a guy changing trash, and I pulled out a $20 bill, and I put it in his hand. I said, yo. I was like, take me to whoever's in charge of this thing, the nice one, because I know markets can be super finicky. He's like, and at first I think he thought it was a drug deal. Because he's just looking at this, and I was like, it's real. I was like, take me. I was like, I got a product. And I had to open it, because I'm like, this product. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, yeah, it's good. So that's what I got. So I took me to a lady named Allison, and I introduced myself, and again, I'm so good at overdoing this. It's awesome. I brought like 20 tubs of hummus for one person. So, but I'm like, well, more hummus is better than little hummus, right? So just give them all they want, right? So I gave her, some samples, like, just try it right now. I was like, I got chips for you. And I made her a plate, like right there in the middle of this farmer's market. I'm scooping hummus on this plate. And I said, just try it. She tries it. She's like, that is good. I was like, yeah, it is. We've been selling for 2 weeks at the other farmer's market. And I was like, and we've sold out 2 coolers, She's like, oh, well, here's the problem. If someone else makes any product close to yours, they won't let you in the market, right? So one guy had a hummus food truck. It was called the Hummus Truck. He didn't have any hummus. He made falafel. But because it was named hummus, I swear to God, there's no hummus in the whole truck. Because I even told the lady at one of the other markets, I'm like, he has no hummus, and it's a food truck. We take yours home, you know? So there was a hummus competitor there that I had been researching and watching, and I was surprised because I'm like, they're probably not going to let me in, but I would try it anyways. He did one flavor of hummus and 4 salsas. And I said, we're completely different. Here's why. And I told her about our company and what we do. So that was Sunday, 3-year waiting list. Monday morning, I had an email from that market with an application to come in. Right timing, right person. Yeah, you know how many emails I sent that company that runs that? Just guess. No, that's ambitious. About 35. 35 emails over the course of 6 months, and I got 0 emails back, right? So there's 35 no's, right? And I did that with, every farmer market must know Jay Wolfe at nights.ucf. I literally slaughter emails sometimes. So, but that market's been incredible for us. Our exposure is unbelievable. You know, now it's helped our social media. It really put us on the map for, hey, we have a product that can do something here. This is my tipping point. You want to talk about the scariest point in time in my life? So as I had these businesses and I started, doing these companies, I always had a job. Well, I'm the type of person, whether I'm the CEO of a company or your garbage man, I'm going to be the best damn garbage man you ever hired. Okay, so I started at AutoZone when I first moved down here, part-time gig, got promoted. O'Reilly Auto Parts, some of you guys are familiar with them, it's AutoZone's big competition. O'Reilly, that's right, it's stupid song. Good marketing, great marketing, remember that. They approached me right as I was starting O'Dang, a little bit before, and they said, hey, we want you to come run one of our stores to work for us, because I was good at what I did for the auto part industry and selling car parts. And I said, well, that's great, and I was just being bold because it's all about the ask, right? Ask. So, and I like to push boundaries, and I said, well, I don't make, horizontal moves, I make vertical moves. So if you want me on your team, and I was an assistant, like a small assistant manager for AutoZone, I was like, I'm going to need to be a store manager. I remember I'm 24, 25 years old. And they're like, oh, okay. And I was good. I was confident in what I did. Well, sure enough, they're like, sure. I was like, okay. All right, well, I guess I'm going to be a store manager. So I said, well, this is the salary I want. And I was making like 42 at the time. I was like, I'm going to need 55,000. They're like, I can't do it. I'm like, well, that's all right. Because I had a job. I didn't care, They're like, all right, fine, we'll give you 56. And I'm like, I'm in, all right, fine, I'll do it. So here I am, like, hell yeah, I'm 20, I think I just turned 25. I'm like 25 years old, and they just gave me a store. I'm like, these people are dumb. So I embraced it, though. I was scared my first day. I'm like, man, because I got hired on a Wednesday, and I opened my store, as in brand new store, on Saturday. So I didn't meet any of my crew. I literally walked into the store and like, here's keys. So I walked in, and I was the youngest person on my entire team of 35 people. So it was a challenge to get that respect. So I busted my ass over a course of 2 years. Over the course of 2 years. And O'Reilly had just moved down into Florida. They were kind of a Westerner company that was coming down into the South. So Orlando was the very first store in Orlando. It was the biggest store. What they didn't tell me is they gave me the largest store in the company out of 4,500 stores. So I'm the youngest store manager with the largest store and the most inventory out of the entire company of any store. So we had $8 million inventory. Most stores had $700,000 inventory. So I was like, what did I do, right? So, but I embraced that challenge. Long story short, I ended up putting that store on the map for the company. It was our first year's sales, we did over $2 million. Those did $3 million. The next store in Florida did $1.2 million, and they've been open for 6 years. So I was a young store manager. I came out blazing. I set this store on the map. So that's me, and the other picture there, shaking hands with the CEO of O'Reilly Auto Parts, getting my award for $2 million. So I came in, I conquered. I did, I made mistakes. Don't get me wrong. I was Ricochet Rabbit with, didn't know, pushed the boundaries, but we did it. So when O'Dang Hummus was taking off, right, I also had this awesome crew with O'Reilly Auto Parts. I came to a point, right, and probably the hardest point ever. They were like, Jesse, you're 27. How about a district manager? We're going to put you over 12 stores, close to $100,000 salary, company car, benefits, everything. That's a sweet job for somebody that hasn't even graduated college yet, right? I said, awesome, thank you. And I said, I'll take it. A week later, I said, here's my 2 weeks notice. And my current DM, who's becoming our regional manager, he's like, excuse me? He's like, nobody's your age in that position. And I'm like, I know, I get it. I was like, but I've got to chase my dreams, right? And I was completely honest with my company. Because what a lot of people didn't see, for 4 months, I was 70 hours at a rally auto parts. I was 40 hours hummus, somewhere a little bit of sleep, and school, too. I was taking 2 classes. So something had to give, right? So I quit. I walked away from a 6-figure job at 27 years old to pursue hummus, dip again. And I was joking like that. I left a great job to sell dip. But I don't regret a single thing of it, because I look back on where I've come, as many no's as I've gotten, and how resilient and how we always persevered above those challenges, right? So to recap, remember that guy that gave up? No, nobody does, right? So at the end of the day, don't take no, right? You might take no and create a pivot point. You might take no as a challenge. You might take no as a starting over point. At the end of the day, don't take no as I quit. And that's one thing you can learn from leaving college. Don't ever quit, no matter what you're doing, whether it's personal, business, relationships, friendship, or life in general. So thank you guys for listening to my ramble. I appreciate it. Any questions? Yes, sir?
How do you pitch hummus?
How do you pitch hummus? That's a good question. You give it to them, one. Samples always rule. So my biggest thing with hummus, some products are hard to describe, right? Like some people's technology is so far advanced that it's hard to really tell the people, the average person, what you're doing, you know? For instance, I always check the names, they're my best friends. 4-Year Electric. I still don't know what they do. Whatever they're doing, it's awesome and it's changing lives, so I'm great. But John talks about it and I'm like, okay, well, hey, rock on, man. Hummus, on the other hand, I can literally go, hey, we are the Ben & Jerry's of hummus. This is what we do. These are our flavors. You say it with confidence, and you don't say it like, hey, I'm just a dip company. We're changing the hummus industry. We're revolutionizing a whole food, right? And if you say it like that, people get jived up and jazzed about it because they're like, man, he's right. He's changing the way people eat hummus, right? And the market. So it's all about approach. You know, you could pitch. I love pitching. It's one of my favorite things to do. You could pitch anything 3 different ways. You know, you can do it slow and monotonous. You can do it fast and exciting, and you can be really creative and just come out. And I've seen it to get people's attention. People just kind of go, ah! Everyone's like, okay, now they got your attention. It's like, Jesus, dude, you just killed the lady in the third row. So, but I've seen them. I watch pitches all the time on YouTube because you get excellent advices on how to pitch different products. Just because it's a tech company, it doesn't have to be boring. Just because it's a blog, it doesn't have to be a blog. Make it exciting. You're in full control of your pitch, right? So what you have?
At what point did you see this, being something that can blow up big? Other than, you noticed there was a need. Okay, we noticed needs in a lot of things.
Yep.
So when did it hit you that you're like, this can really be big?
That's a great question. That's a great question. So, writing the business plan competition, I knew, go to your grocery store when you leave here. Sabra owns that case, right? It's all red lids. That's it, right? So I started doing my research with my business plan that I leverage your people. So I wrote my business plan with 4 other people because it was a group project. Leverage your people. So, and it was a grade and everything else. So if you get the opportunity, definitely do that. Anyways, so when we're doing our business plan competition, I realized that Sabra had 75% of the market share. I also realized that Sabra got bought out by PepsiCo for $480 million. And I was like, they're $3 a tub. I'm like, 400, that's half a $1 billion company for making dip, right? So I started looking and putting the pieces together, and while writing that business plan, I was like, oh my God, this is way bigger. I thought I'd make maybe a cool lifestyle business out of this, kind of like about detailing. So it really hit me hard, like, hey, I can change something here, right? I can put myself on the map. I can change. So then I started, and now our business model has changed substantially for some different avenues we're going down. But I realized how much of an impact and how much we can really change the whole market of hummus. And that's when really, $500,000 company, sure. $1 million company, absolutely, right? $500 million company, oh yeah. My goal, we're gonna be the first $1 billion hummus company. So yeah, exactly. If you're gonna dream big, right? Because, and there's another cool saying I always see, what if I fall? What if you fly? Well played. So if I'm going to dream big, right? Because at the end of the day, anyone know who Elon Musk is? Okay. For those that don't, guy founded PayPal. Okay. So this guy, he's incredible, right? He started with a small software company, right? And he made $25 million on it. That's a lot of money, right? So then he took his $25 million and he's like, well, I'm going to create PayPal. I'm going to create the way people pay for stuff on the internet. That's pretty ambitious, right? World Wide Web, he creates PayPal. I think we all use PayPal at some point in time, right? So that's pretty ambitious. So then he sells PayPal for hundreds of millions of dollars, right? So what does the guy think of doing next? Who can tell me what he created next? Space. But excellent. SpaceX. Oh, I'm gonna challenge NASA. Are you high? You're talking NASA, you know? And then, at the same time, I'm gonna revolutionize the way we drive cars. One thing at a time, right? And that's what people tell him. You're crazy. He took almost every last penny he made off of PayPal and sunk them hardcore into these two companies. Well, guess what? With SpaceX, that man figured out a way to create a rocket that cost 75% less than what NASA could make. NASA, some of the brightest people in the world, a man just like you and I, took his time, believed in himself, shot for high goals, and revolutionized the space industry. You know? So when I tell people, hey, we're going to be the first billion-dollar hummus company, they go, that's ambitious. I'm like, well, so is creating a space company. But people do. You know what I mean? So, always dream for, shooting big. But what you got, brother?
Well, I guess you answered half my question about where you want to go, but I guess I know you kind of mentioned you're starting to get a little bit of attention on social media and stuff like that, but where exactly do you see yourself now, and what steps do you kind of see yourself taking to be able to get to that $1 billion mark, or even just like increments of here and there?
Yeah, well, I mean, there are a lot of things we plan on taking hummus into that a lot of people haven't really even fathomed, because hummus is still a pretty new food product, but its adoption rate is quick, right? And so right now, which I'm working diligently on, we are approaching Whole Foods next week. So Whole Foods will be our very first grocery store that we'll be going into. We're really jazzed about it. We've definitely proved ourselves in the farmers markets, no doubt. Our farmers markets and social media, are going just nuts. We get a lot of cool coverage, meet a lot of cool people. So according to my business plan, year 1 was farmers markets, year 2 were grocery store, which are Whole Foods, Trader Joe's. We're 5 months into this, and we're already at Trader Joe's Whole Food status. So things are moving a lot quicker. And our thing right now is how fast can we run while still being efficient and productive and not grow too fast to where we can't handle ourselves, right, for our own good. So our goal is 3 years to be nationwide. So, and then at that point in time, we'll we have some really fun pivots that I really don't want to touch on right now because they're kind of really revolutionary to the way people are going to eat hummus. But it's going to be awesome. We're excited to be kind of those rebels without a cause, challenging an entire industry. We're literally the square holes in the round pegs, right? So, what you gonna do?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. How did you put your team together? Because you said that you started your hummus on your own. So how?
I did. Great story, Pam. So we're actually doing that now. So I say we a lot. There's a great commercial on TV right now where the FedEx guy's in this guy's office. I don't know if you guys have seen that. And he's like, one must portray a great image, right? And then his wife opens the garage door and the back office scene rolls up. And he's in it. Have you seen that? So it's literally a guy in his office, but it's in the garage of his house. So I say we a lot. It's me. It's always been me, and I'm not proud of that, really. I should have had a team a while ago, but it's hard to find people you trust. Am I proud of what I've done? Yes. Do I have a team of minions, as I call my employees? Yes. I have hired people to help make hummus and stuff. And I bounce ideas off my minions constantly because your mind thinks differently from everyone else's mind. So the one's a nursing major. She just had some really kick butt ideas for some of our farmers markets. So I listen to my people constantly. So we are establishing a team right now quickly because I am really, really tired of wearing all the hats. And I suck at some of it. Social media, I've been teaching myself, and I'm getting better at it, but I know people can optimize it and blow what I can do out the door and get us more coverage. So I'm still working on the team process, how that works. Every day is a learning day, right? So, yep.
Yes.
At the start, you talked about rejection versus regret, which I thought was very interesting. My question is basically, while you talked about how, while you changed your attitude about rejection, I wanted to ask you whether or not this change in attitude, was it because you got so many no's that you became resilient, or was it just because you had shifted your perception on rejection?
A little bit of both. You know, I learned to take no not personal, right? And to just, okay, no, move on, no, move on, no, move on. But in the same sense, yes, when you get so many no's, you almost become numb to it. But you also have to change your mindset of accepting that negative feedback and not letting it, because you take things, some things you take personal, like grudges. Sometimes you're like, why did I hold that grudge? That was dumb, right? It's the same thing. Don't hold a grudge against no. And I had to teach myself that. You know, hey, don't take it personal. It's your own thing, and just overcome it. You know, and then get no's. Because think about a home run. How many strikes? How many first base hits do they get before they get that home run? They don't hit a home run every time. But that's the yes. The rest are no's, right? So it's the same thing for baseball. So thank you guys so much. Yes, please. I brought a ton of hummus. I encourage all of you to eat it.
Before everybody wraps into the towel on this, just want you guys to know if you want a free startup or coaching appointment, you guys can see me or Shakira over there. We can sign you up for an appointment where you can get coaching. Shakira over here as well. We have two Shakiras.
Oh, dang.
So you can see us.
Two Shakiras.
If you
God.
want.
Hey, don't buy Sabra for the events. Shakira number 2.
So if you want free coaching appointments, just like you received, you guys can come see us. If you want us to sign up on the newsletter to find out about events before the entire campus does, come see us as well. But first, let's take an Instagram picture with some hummus in the front. IG. And what's today's tag?
Wait a minute.
Oh, dang.
John, are you thinking you're going to go high and then stand for the back?
Everybody.
Yeah.
Well, we were featured in night news today. So my phone's been going freaking nuts all afternoon, like all morning.
Jesse, you can start opening them.
Oh, okay,
right.
Handing them out.
Somebody can open the door and you just kind of
Open for now. Beach we got some big things coming along. Yeah. Well, and that's why it's so fresh. Yeah.
What area?
Yeah, buffalo, the black is twisty. Green is what?
Okay, guys, get towards the front. You can take your picture. You can start eating.
Get close. Get off with us.
So we were trying to this. We had a little
Hey, can you guys all converge? Now look towards me and take a photo.
you know,
Head towards the food. And then look towards me.
Alright, everybody has to get a hummus and take a selfie and tag O'Dang Hummus too.
Okay, that's your other thing. Put it in now for now. Jeff, you get in the picture.
We have so much room in our show.
can I lay it down in front?
I'm cold.
Whatever you want.
Oh, nice.
Alright guys, you converge a little bit more. Alright guys, pose for me. Pose for me.
Yeah.
That's all right.
1,
Help
2,
with your-
3. Awesome, I love it guys. Thank you so much.
Hey, do you know where we can find the live stream for all this? I missed one session.
I'm actually still involved in business management No, the cool thing about entrepreneurship, thanks, so appreciate it. The entrepreneurship side of all this, you meet so many people in the entrepreneurial world. Capitalists, you get some
Halfway here, thank you.
It made it a lot easier.
I don't know. Do you have your coming out?
How are you? We had they're actually not. Everything right now is their own manufacturer. Yeah, definitely something down the road we're looking into. Yeah, we have right now we have more integrators. We're kind of waiting for this food thing to settle. Yeah, so we really just do that. So Buffalo wing is the orange, green is millionaire, and black is sweet spicy black. Yeah, here. Need to help for that. That was another old walk on the road. When you make something in a small quantity, it's funny. When you make it in a bigger quantity, then it becomes kind of a nightmare. So right now, when we make it, we do what we call runs. So we make about 30 gallons of hummus at a time. So to scale that flavor, now we have it very, very simple. You want it to be the same product every time. It is handcrafted, but it still uses as the day we made it. Thank you. So yes, that was a learning curve. Because the first time I scaled the batch, I was like, this is nothing like what we do. Yeah, and that was another part where I was like, oh my god, this is great. But automatically, so that that's what we're trying to do. That's the whole purpose of our company, So, technically, right? So, our social media campaign is to show you how you can, what it makes it with it, how you do it. We have a chicken salad sandwich, substitute mayonnaise, and a buffalo hummus. So you get a buffalo chicken sandwich, it's killer, it's going down, so it has been really revolutionary. It's no longer doing it hummus on the cheaper. It's killer, yeah. So you lose that mayonnaise, the fat from the mayonnaise, the sugar from the mayonnaise. You substitute with something Here's the thing, we actually had a lot of because it can say it also because the problem with going to restaurants and stuff like that, the dilution, right, of your content. So, well, Garden picked up, Garden does buffalo. It's our right? So our thing is to blow the branding up. One day, I think we can partner with Subway. Subway is guacamole. Yeah. So, guacamole hummus, but that could be a large scale where we do national. They're not making hummus, they're buying it. We need help with that. But we realize that would only hurt us with the point of we've also had restaurants for us stop making flavors, but we're looking at getting billionaires stuff, right? $1 billion big picture. You're not going to get that. We've said no to some pretty cool ideas that could have generated some money, but it's not the round I wanted. That's why everybody now, unlike your black baby, it lets you the entire thing with that. That's what I'm going after. Right, Howard. Thanks for inviting me to here. You guys are the reason. 14% of Americans eat meat. So, and then 1%